When I walk in, every ancestor move. Every cell in my body got an ancient groove. I ain't searching for truth, I embody the proof. You look at me, you see the lineage. Every obstacle shift when I rise in.
Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report Live. I am the bridge connecting the next generation to federal contracting. I am Retwan Hill, and with me I have the man, the myth, the legend, the ambassador of peace. And if you don't know who he is by now, you might want to ask AI, Mr. Walter Cotton III. Mr. Cotton, how your Friday going?
Well, good beginning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So let's dive right in now. We got a deadline approaching that's a pivotal point right now, 4 days away from the decision to either extend 30 days with this conflict, war, or the Congress stepping in and doing something.
When you say we have a deadline that's 4 days away, today is the 24th of April. I haven't heard this deadline that you're talking about discussed in the popular media. What demarcation point are you describing that occurs 4 days from now?
Yes, sir. So essentially that they have the president initiated an action that he has a 60-day time window before Congress has to step in to either pass a war resolution act or the president having the ability to extend it 30 days out for a continuation or hopefully the withdrawal of troops.
And where can I find this authority of which you speak?
This is a statute. These are statutes. I believe it's Article 1, if I'm not mistaken.
So you're suggesting that this body of information that you're speaking to is resident in a document like the Constitution?
Yes.
So you're talking about constitutional powers?
Yes.
So you're talking about a deadline that is hard-coded in the Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And so specifically what you're speaking to is the fact that the Constitution gives the president liberal authority to protect the nation with the Department of Defense. And in the event that he decides to involve the Department of Defense in an action, the Constitution gives him a specific period of time that he can act unilaterally on behalf of the American people without the endorsement of the representatives of the American people, which would be the Congress.
Absolutely.
And so what I'm hearing you say is that within that time period, there is a 60-day time frame that the president has to operate unilaterally within, and that 60-day time frame ends on the 28th of April. That's what you're speaking to, correct?
Yes, April 28th or April 29th, but yeah, it's coming up soon, fast.
And what are the options that are available to the administration after the 28th of April?
Yes. So they could either approve a War Power Resolution Act where they're,
Wait a second now, because you're mixing metaphors there, because I didn't ask what was in the authority or the rights of the Congress. I'm asking specifically because we have separations of powers in our government, right? And the executive branch operates under a unique set of authorities that are granted to it by the Constitution. So I'm interested in understanding what is the executive branch's options in this situation, given this timeline.
Withdrawal of troops or a deeper escalation. That, from my perspective.
So it's my understanding that the Congress does not, or should I say the Constitution does not empower the president to unilaterally decide to escalate this particular action outside of this 60-day window without expressed authority from the Congress. And so from that perspective or point of view, the president has within his authority the rights that are granted to him under the Constitution, which would be at the end of this 60-day window, which the Constitution grants him the right to act unilaterally on behalf of the people. He has the opportunity to execute a extension of 30 days.
Yes.
That's granted to him by the Congress. And what we're suggesting that the president should do with that 30-day extension, should he find the need to use it, is to employ it towards creating an orderly withdrawal of our forces from an action that conventional wisdom suggests we should not be involved in the first place.
Yes, sir. Now, okay. Given the track record of what's been going on in this administration, right? And that's why I said this. It seems like the options that are by statute, by Constitution, the actual option he has may not just be that only option. It seems like he pretty much has reign over what he's doing and not trying to focus on that. But it just seemed like that maybe our Congress is letting us down, and that it could be a potential, well, the ball is in your court.
And so, to say it more directly, I think that what you're saying is that the executive branch has been acting as if it has complete and unilateral authority to do whatever it wants, and a Congress that has tools to rein this executive branch in has not been utilizing those tools. And therefore, when we had the early excursions outside of the rights that are granted under the Constitution, and Congress said nothing, like when the West Wing of, was the East Wing? Well, one of the wings of the White House was torn down and Congress said nothing, or when the implementation of these procurement strategies that has made America less safe were implemented and Congress said nothing. What you're suggesting is that has emboldened this administration to take actions that test the limits and bounds of the Constitution, and this is just another of them. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm suggesting. Yeah, I would love to hear your perspective on your thoughts of that.
Well, I'm in violent agreement with you, right? I'm in violent agreement that we have seen some actions out of this administration that has placed them, in my opinion, my patriotic opinion, in a position of persona non grata. There are promises that were made that have made America, or let me restate that. There were promises made that were not kept, that have made America less safe. It has made the cost of living here in America almost unaffordable for a large portion of the population. And so I'm in a position where, fool me once, shame on me. Or I mean, shame on you, rather, right? Fool me twice, shame on me. And so in this particular instance, I think we've given this administration, we've given this cabinet all of the rope that we need to give them. And now it's time for us to pull it back in and start doing what's in the best interest of we, the people. And that requires a Congress that has mechanisms, right? And I'm talking to the Congress right now, that has mechanisms to rein this executive branch in. It's time for you to employ those. We need to see a vote to rein in this particular incursion that, in point of fact, not only do the majority of Americans, but the majority of the world believe we should not be in the first place.
Yes, sir. Well, let's talk about that, right? Because they have Iran, they have stuff, they have uranium, they have things that can make nuclear weapons, right? So we don't want that. We don't want that, but we don't actually have factual evidence that was their intentions to create nuclear weapons to attack America. That's one part of it.
So I think that it's important to, like, you know, Matthew McConaughey often says, go back a little bit before we trying to understand the "you are here" point or go forward. And so the truth of the matter is, we are in a conflict with Iran because we don't want them to have nuclear weapons, right?
Yeah.
Because we are concerned as a nation that if they had those weapons, they would utilize them in a negative way, in a destructive way, right? And so the opportunity there is to find a way, right, to get them to negotiate or get them to agree to not have the nuclear material that leads to nuclear weapons. And we could achieve that outcome through a forcing function, through kinetic action, or we could achieve that outcome through diplomatic channels, through negotiated channels. Okay. So if we go back to the place that we were at before all of this started, right, we had an agreement in place with Iran that suggested that there was a pathway to denuclearization, right, or at least dearming the nuclear threat from Iran, right? That was a clear deal that was on the table. There were negotiations that were underway that reporting, firsthand understanding, suggests that the deal was about to become a lot sweeter, right? They were about to agree to some things that would have produced the outcome that we were looking for without the kinetic event. But a decision was made, right, in the um, um, appearance of all of that successful outcome to attack this nation. And so now we find ourselves in a position to, in my opinion, have taken the wrong path, right? We did the wrong thing in this particular instance to initiate this action against the Iranians. And now we're faced with that Hobson's choice, which is no real choice, right? Because the righter you do the wrong thing, the wronger you're going to become. And so in this particular instance, we, the people of the United States of America, are left with a decision to either back the ill-fated decision, the ill-fated choice of our commander in chief, of the gentleman that we elected president, or to send a message to the world that this is not how America behaves. And that's the unique intersection we find ourselves at right now, with a president who is demonstrating his interest in testing the Constitution, having a 4-day window in which he's got to make a decision that's going to tell the American people where he's coming from. In those same 4 days, we have a constitutional body, a House of Representatives, and a group of 100 senators that have the ability to send an equal message on behalf of we the people. I'm looking forward to seeing what message Congress sends to this executive branch, which needs to be told to stand down.
My question is, okay, so what do you think that because we the people haven't been doing our job as, you know, voicing our opinion in the way that it need to be, that it emboldened the president to say, well, why not?
It does. I mean, you know, and we let those words roll off of our tongue, you know, very easily for a hard fought position, right? And those words are "we the people," right? In this nation, we the people constructed a constitutional republic so that we could manage against these kinds of events and actions moving forward. And so we have to recognize that if we don't take control of this blessing that we have, it could be taken away. It could be stolen away. And so in this particular instance, right, we have a unique ability to take this individual, because that's what this person is, right? That's what the president is, right? Let's not get that twisted, right? This president is an individual who has elected to represent the people. And if he misrepresents the people, we have mechanisms in place to control tyrants, right? And I'm not suggesting that this guy is a tyrant, but he sure is acting like one with some of these behaviors. And so in that particular instance, right, what we the people have to recognize is that that Constitution gives us rights and authority. It gives us the rights and authority. The rights and authority don't rest with the Congress. The rights and authority doesn't rest with the executive branch. It rests with we the people. And so what we the people have to do is caucus together and deliver a clear and deep-throated voice or message to our elected officials. And that's where we're at right now, right? Our executive branch is doing some things that we the people are very uncomfortable with. And our Congress is not taking the responsibility to rein them in the way that we need them to be reined in. So we're going to utilize what happens over the next, there are 4 days and then 30, over the next 34 days to determine how we react to your reelection to the office that you're sitting in right now.
Yes, sir. Now, if Congress fully steps in and asserts their authority, how does that reshape the balance of power between the Congress and the president?
We don't need to reshape the balance of power. Like, the balance of power is clear, right? Mm-hmm. The Congress has the power of the purse. We don't need to reshape it, right? They just need to exercise their authority. They just need to exercise their rights. When we're in a situation where we've got $51+ billion that have been taken out of our treasury, that have been taken out of our taxpayers' pockets and used to prosecute an action, when we have individuals in our country that don't have healthcare coverage, right? We've got individuals in our country that are experiencing food insecurity. We really have to question the judgment and decision-making of the executive branch. So the Congress has the ability to rein that branch in by cutting off the tap, right? Cutting off his ability to spend money in ways that are not within the best interests of these United States. So we don't need to reorder or reimagine the powers. We need to use the powers that we already have. And a friend of mine, the young lady that I hired as a lobbyist when I first came to DC, recently wrote a book called Redefining Freedom. I think that was the name of the book. I didn't get it right the last time. Her name is Sophia Nelson. She's an accomplished lawyer and professor. You guys should read that book. There's a interview that she did on C-SPAN this past Sunday, which delivered a complete understanding of what the book's about. But what she is encouraging us to recognize is, in a constitutional republic where 50% of the voting public doesn't engage, you have a problem. You have a real problem, because there are nations in this world that would give their hind tooth for the opportunity that we have in this constitutional republic. So what we have to do is we have to find out why we have more people apathetic about the voting process, educate them to their capability under that system, and invite them back into the camp. I think if we invite more people back into the camp, we can control our congressional outcomes from something other than a partisan perspective, right? Something other than a right versus left perspective. We can control our politicians from the patriotic perspective of we the people, who operate in a kinder, gentler nation, right? That beautiful city on the hill that is calling, let me not recite the preamble or any other document here.
Yes, sir. So, and this was because I don't, and from my perspective, right, we're nonpartisan, strictly constitutional, what's right for the United States of America. nobody like high prices. I mean, I know if you're in the upper K or lower K, upper K may not, but if you still paying a little bit of extra dollars for something you was paying a little bit less for, I don't think you would like it. It may not affect your pockets, but you
Well,
probably like,
I'd like to correct that thought because, in point of fact, there are those that love higher prices. And those are the ones that benefit from them.
oh,
Right.
yeah.
That's that small segment of the population, right, that would be happy to see you suffer if they get to enjoy more coin. And so when we say things like that, we really have to, test that against realism, right? We have a invisible hand that has been moving the economic needle globally for some time, and they don't care about the size of your K, right? In your country, they don't care about the amount of suffering that you're having in your underclass. They're not concerned about the hollowing out of your middle class. All they're concerned about is that you continue to make your interest payments.
But it's more of us than them. And I think that's where the we the people messages or what I'm trying to point the fact of the matter is that is more of us than that small population that wants to see that that benefits off of those increased prices. So, since it's the majority of us, we need to say something and do something about it because we do have the power to do something.
Well, we have the power too, but we have to get the inclination and the intention, right? Because if you've ever seen an army of ants, right, they're very effective at adopting to their environment and overcoming. I actually saw a group of ants build a bridge, right, over an open waterway, right, to in an engineering feat that would marvel what humans could do to move some stuff from one side of the land to the other because they needed it. And so, that's a large population. Your statement was there's more of us than there are of them, right? That, don't have the right intentionality in this situation. And what I mean by that is if you give that same army of ants the instructions to eat the elephant, that elephant is powerless. If you give that same army of ants the instructions to eat the elephant, they're going to figure out a way eventually, right, to corner that elephant and eat that elephant, take that elephant down one bite at a time. So it's a function of giving the population, we the people, the right instruction. And I would rather give them a inspiring instruction that motivates them to the next level, as opposed to a threatening instruction that scares them into compliance. I think that the freedoms that we enjoy in this nation are worth saving. I think that the conveniences that we enjoy, and we take them for granted, right? We take for granted the fact that we in this country live at a standard of living on the majority of our socioeconomic levels that is higher than the emperors back in Rome. In point of fact, for the vast majority of our population, if you want to eat grapes today, you can eat grapes today. You just need to go down to your local supermarket. If you want to eat avocados today, you can eat avocados today. You just need to go down to your local supermarket because our systems of systems and our supply chain is functional to the degree that the shelves keep stocked. If we disrupt and interrupt that system because the haves are fighting against the have-nots, we are going to see a difference. And so I'm encouraging us to recognize what we have and do everything that we can to keep what we've got before we're forced to reinvent ourselves.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Now, but okay. So even with that being said, we're pretty much at a threat where things like food is pretty much, or the stability of having food in no grocery stores are at threat. And say even if if the next 4 or 5 days we decide to pull everything back, it still is going to be that it still was that gap that was created that's going to create a deficit. Now, I'm not sure exactly how bad or how traumatic it will be to us, but that's kind of like the fact of the matter, that's like where things are looking right now.
Well, I think that what you're suggesting is that the Strait of Hormuz event and
Yes.
its closure is creating downrange economic pain that people have suggested could be as much or as high as starvation and famine. And that's a true statement, right? That the economists across the globe are sounding the alarm that this is going to be a problem for Europe, for Asia, for an immediate and present danger for those nations. America is unique,
Yeah, we are.
right? Because of our location, because of the fact that we've got two oceans that border our geography, and the fact that we have a tremendous amount of natural resources right here on our little island that we call America. And at the end of the day, when adversity strikes, I'm betting on Americans. I'm betting on America, right? And so I have no doubt in my mind that we will pivot as a nation, right? And we will come out unscathed from this international event, from a financial, from a physical perspective. But our reputation on a world stage could be besmirched, right? Our reputation, in terms of our ability to do the things that God gave this great nation all of these resources with the ability to do, right, could be affected. And so we've got a dual interest here, right? We have an interest in making sure that everything and everyone here is safe, good, covered, all of that stuff. But we also have an responsibility to the rest of the world, right? Growing up under the systems that I grew up under, I was taught to one whom much is given, much is expected, right? And we were given this greater set of resources, not to keep it all to ourselves and hoard it, but to be an example to the rest of the world. And I'd like America to be a better example than we are being today.
Yes, sir. Now, do you think, and when you say that, it could potentially create more, they're going to have memory about this going on that created trauma across globally. Do you think that would embolden the other nations to say, well, just in case this happened to me, that I do need to prepare more effectively? So like Iran, for example, after it's all said and done, do you think this would embolden them to say, okay, let me make sure I do have this type of weapons just in case?
Well, I want to get back to the economics of the things, because that's my lane. But I'd like to leave a dog in this particular fight as well, right? In the political fight, because I'm of the opinion that we have a unique opportunity to demonstrate the functionality of our Constitution. And I think that we have the responsibility to the people of this country and to the world to execute, to show the full functionality of our Constitution by replacing the executive branch with a leadership that is representative of the spirit and intention of we the people. And if Congress becomes a barrier in the way of achieving that goal, then we replace them suckers too. But we have got to send a message to the world that we respect and appreciate the unique advantage that we own in this constitutional republic that we enjoy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. One last question for you. Why do you think people are not prone to vote. And even myself, I was ignorant to it before I learned about the civics process. What is your thought and perspective on the reason why we don't embolden ourselves to vote more?
It's because it's by design, right? The powers that be, knew that if they left the populace ignorant, right, then they wouldn't have the critical thinking skills to be able to solve their way out of the hard problems that they were going to face. And so what you're experiencing, what you just described, was the result of a systemic plan to make sure that you didn't have the intellectual capability to make the decisions that you need to make. And I'm not talking from a perspective of one who is reaching for things, right? I'm talking about this from an experiential learning point of view, because I went through the educational system. I didn't learn how to read until I was in college. That means that I passed every grade level, right? Every grade level I passed as a functionally illiterate human being. I didn't take on the responsibility of learning how to learn until I realized that if I didn't learn how to learn, I was going to be in a hurt locker. And so a lot of the intellectual capability that I have arrived at, I acquired myself. It didn't come from the system. And so the system has got the vast majority of people exactly where they want them, at a docile, ignorant, undereducated place where they won't even pick up the Constitution and educate themselves to their rights. And so in yesterday's environment, I would have, given them a break because you had to go dig the stuff out of research libraries and centers. But today, with the internet, with AI, it takes an effort to be ignorant. And so what we're encouraging our fellow Americans to do is not listen to what we're saying and just act on it. We're saying trust but verify, right? Take the information that we're saying about your right as a citizen of these United States and run it up against your favorite AI engine and get them to confirm the fact that the president has a 60-day leeway to play this game that he's playing in Iran. And at the end of that 60-day time period, he has one option, and that is to adhere to what the Congress says. He can extend for 30 days, but that's only if he has a true reasonable justification. And the only justification that's acceptable in this situation, where we're in a war of choice, is a orderly withdrawal of our troops from the Middle East. Because the truth of the matter is, once the American people realize that you have slipped the draft back into place, and come December, the selective service requirement kicks in, people are going to realize that, hey, maybe there was a broader plan, maybe there was a broader agenda underway, and this isn't some drunken kung fu warrior outcome, but something that requires our undivided attention.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're going to dive in deeper on that topic because that was a question I had about your perspective on this, on them initiating the draft again. But guys, on that note, have a great weekend. I am Ratwan Hill, and that is the Mr. Walter Cotton III. Until next time, guys, we are out.